and gentlemen, viewers around the world, thank you for joining me. Today, within just the last few minutes, we have received new observational data from the Lowell Discovery Telescope in Arizona. These are images of 3I Gatias, one of the very few known interstellar objects to have entered our solar system. This is something extraordinarily rare, something that does not belong to our planetary neighborhood, something that comes from outside. And whenever something comes from the outside, it raises questions we are often not prepared to answer. Let me begin with a point that demands attention. We live in a world where nations debate borders, trade routes, and ideological conflicts, but space does not obey those borders. When an object travels millions upon millions of miles from a region we cannot map, we are forced to confront a reality much larger than ourselves. The new images show details of the object's structure, trajectory, and surface activity that scientists did not previously expect. There are unusual patterns of reflectivity, suggesting material composition not commonly found in our local celestial bodies. That alone is enough to shake assumptions in astronomy, physics, and perhaps even geopolitics. Because let us be honest, if nations on Earth struggle to cooperate over vaccines, energy, or food distribution, what will happen when the unknown approaches us from beyond? Who leads that conversation? Who controls that research? Who controls what information the public is allowed to know? Some governments will treat this as a curiosity, others will view it as an opportunity, and a few will view it as a threat. This is why discoveries like this are not just scientific events, they are political events. They remind us of how small we are, yes, but also how interconnected our fate is. No country, no corporation, no intelligence agency has ownership of interstellar space, and yet history teaches us whenever something new is discovered, the powerful try to claim it. That is where we must stay vigilant. So as we review these images, as astronomers analyze this data, we must also ask who will decide what comes next? A handful of political elites, military agencies, or the global public? The people whose future will actually be shaped by such revelations. We are living in a moment where space is no longer a distant dream. It is becoming a strategic landscape, and the arrival of 3I Gatias is not just a scientific curiosity. It is a reminder that history is bigger than Earth. Thank you for listening. Stay aware. Stay informed. The world is changing, and not all of it is happening on this planet. Closing statement, we must not face the unknown with fear, but with transparency, cooperation, and collective responsibility. The universe is speaking. The real question is, are we prepared to listen? When we speak of the new images released just moments ago from the Lowell Discovery Telescope, we must understand the magnitude of what has been observed. 3I Gatias is not just another comet, not simply another drifting piece of cosmic debris. It is an interstellar object, meaning it did not originate in our solar system at all. It traveled across distances we cannot meaningfully measure in familiar human terms. And before we even begin to interpret what these images show, we must recognize that what we are dealing with is something that challenges our assumptions about where we stand in the universe. Now, the newly captured images have revealed details that go beyond what astronomers had predicted. The telescope's enhanced imaging sensors recorded patterns of surface reflectivity and material consistency that do not match the standard profiles of comets formed within our system. This means that the materials we are seeing do not belong to the chemical and mineral signatures common to bodies orbiting our sun. And that, my friends, should immediately capture the full attention of every scientific institution, political agency, and global leader. There are noticeable layers within the comet's surface, patterns that suggest not a chaotic accumulation of ice and dust as we see in typical comets, but structures, formations that imply a different process of formation. This is where the questions become difficult, perhaps even uncomfortable. What kind of star system produces material like this? What forces shaped it? And perhaps the most compelling question of all, what caused it to break free and enter our solar path? These inquiries are not simply scientific curiosities. They point toward the possibility that other systems, other worlds, and other conditions of matter operate under physics or geological histories that we have not studied before. When humans encounter something unfamiliar, we have a habit, we compare it to what we already know. But there are moments, rare ones, where comparison fails. And when comparison fails, growth begins or fear takes over. Here is where the hook lies, because humanity is now staring at something profoundly unfamiliar, and history teaches us that the unfamiliar is always political. Scientists have already begun expressing caution, not fear, but awareness, because knowledge like this reshapes the intellectual hierarchy of the world. When a discovery does not fit existing models, the people who control those models have a choice to make adapt or suppress. Do not underestimate how powerful institutions react to uncertainty. If this object indeed contains materials not present in our system, industries will have questions. Military organizations will have concerns. Space agencies will want access. Governments will want control. The images are not just images, they are leverage, and leverage is never neutral. Notice, too, that this discovery comes at a time when global tensions are already high, where mistrust between nations is not an occasional inconvenience, but a defining feature of world affairs. Now imagine adding a new variable, one that does not belong to the Earth, one that cannot be claimed by anyone, and yet will certainly be attempted to be claimed. The strongest powers will attempt to classify the data first. They will attempt to build exclusive research teams. They will attempt to decide who gets to speak about this object and who does not. The public may be told only fragments. Perhaps what we are hearing already is only a fragment. We cannot assume transparency simply because the images were released. Information in the modern world is not simply shared, it is curated. This is why the composition of 3IKTLS matters profoundly. If the object contains material unknown to us, then whoever studies it first stands at the edge of new knowledge, knowledge that could lead to technological innovation, strategic advantage, or ideological influence. Imagine if the structure of this object reveals new insights into how matter forms under different cosmic pressures. Imagine if it contains elements we have not yet synthesized on Earth. The implications touch everything: energy, aerospace, manufacturing, even the fundamental frameworks of physics. But here is the deeper, quieter truth. This object reminds us that we are not the center of anything. We are not the measure of the universe. We are participants in a much larger, older, and more complex cosmic environment. And for all our progress, we are still in the earliest chapters of understanding what lies beyond the light of our own star. The question now is not simply what this object is, but whether humanity is intellectually, politically, and morally prepared to learn what it may teach. When an interstellar object enters our solar neighborhood, it does not just challenge scientific understanding. It challenges the entire framework by which nations perceive control, power, and responsibility. The arrival of 3IKTLS and the newly released images from the Lowell Discovery Telescope thrusts us into a situation where no single government can legitimately claim ownership, and yet many will attempt to. Space has long been romanticized as the shared frontier of humankind, a realm free of political division. But we know from history that wherever value exists, competition follows. And what could be more valuable than something that comes from beyond our world, something untouched, unclaimed, and unknown? It forces us to confront a very real question: who has the right to study, interpret, and control the narrative of discoveries that belong to no nation? When breakthroughs of this scale occur, there are always actors, political, military, corporate, who see opportunity before they see humanity. We are witnessing the birth of not just scientific curiosity, but strategic positioning. Nations with advanced space programs will immediately begin calculating how access to interstellar material could alter technological development. Countries with weaker scientific infrastructure may fear being left behind, and powerful strategic alliances will look at this object not through telescopes, but through the lens of security implications. This is where cooperation becomes both essential and deeply threatened, because true cooperation requires trust, and trust is the rarest resource in global politics today. We must ask ourselves whether the world is structured to handle discoveries that demand shared responsibility. What happens when information is not just knowledge, but power? Imagine the geopolitical tension if one space agency develops analysis techniques before others. Imagine the military implications if a government interprets the object's composition as evidence of unfamiliar engineering processes or even potential artificiality. Whether or not such interpretations are true is less important than the fact that such interpretations will be made. Here lies a crucial hook. The unknown invites imagination, and imagination drives both innovation and fear. When powerful institutions are motivated by fear, secrecy follows, and secrecy breeds mistrust. If the study of 3I to TIAS becomes fragmented, controlled by individual governments, private aerospace corporations, or selective alliances, then humanity risks not just losing information, but losing unity, because knowledge held by a few always becomes a tool against the many. We have seen this pattern before. Nuclear research began as scientific exploration, but quickly fragmented into political weaponization. Space exploration started with ideals of discovery, but competition turned it into a demonstration of technological dominance. Now we face a discovery that does not come from us at all, yet will be shaped by how we choose to interpret it. If this becomes another arena for global competition, we will learn less, progress more slowly, and deepen divisions already threatening global stability. But there is also a rare opportunity at hand, one that could redefine how nations operate on the global stage. The very nature of this object, coming from beyond our solar system, makes it a shared inheritance of life itself. It challenges the illusion that nations exist as separate worlds. It reminds us that Earth, in the grand scale, is one place, occupied by one species living under one star, and there is another dimension, public trust. People want to know what this object is, where it came from, and what it means. If governments choose exclusivity over transparency, public speculation will escalate, and when speculation escalates, conspiracy and misinformation follow. The unknown becomes a canvas for fear, suspicion, and manufactured narratives. So the question becomes, will global leaders choose openness, or will they attempt to control the story? This is where voices matter. Scientists must speak. Independent researchers must be included. Public institutions must participate. Because if only a small circle handles this knowledge, the world will not be informed. It will be managed. And a managed world is not a free one. The discovery of 3I to TIAS is not just a chance to learn about the cosmos. It is a chance to learn about ourselves. How we respond will reveal whether humanity is prepared to think beyond borders, beyond competition, and beyond the narrow interests of individual nations. The object came from a place we cannot see, traveling through darkness older than civilization. And now that it is here, the real question is not what it is, but whether we are capable of meeting the unknown together rather than fighting over who gets to hold the light.